The story begins in a house where some kids are happily playing hide and seek. A woman named Yoshi tells her daughter May that she is going out to buy some snacks for her friends. Before leaving the house, she carefully hides all the sharp knives and spoons from the kitchen up high, just to make sure none of the kids get hurt while playing. Meanwhile, May was looking for a really good hiding spot, but when she sees that all the best spots are already taken by her friends, she hides in a place from which coming out was almost completely impossible. A short while later, when Yoshi returns, she is absolutely shocked by the sight outside. Except for May, all the other kids are standing outside with their mothers, but May is nowhere to be seen. Panicking, Yoshi immediately calls the police and files a missing person report. On the other hand, the moment May's father Suzuki gets this terrifying news, he rushes home completely frantic. Trying to handle the situation, he makes a cup of tea for his distressed wife. But Yoshi was so terrified deep down that the tea spills from her trembling hands. She quickly cleans the table and goes straight to the washing machine to wash the cloth. But the exact second she opens the lid, a heart-stopping scream rips from her throat. Inside the machine lay the dead body of her daughter May. During the game of hide and seek, May had actually hidden inside it, and the lid had locked itself on its own. Unable to breathe, she had suffocated and died a slow, agonizing death right inside. After this horrific tragedy, Yoshi falls into a deep trauma. Suzuki takes her to multiple doctors and gives her tons of medication, but Yoshi's heavy sorrow shows absolutely no signs of fading. One day, May's grandmother comes over and hands her a pamphlet with pictures of some dolls on it. It was a spiritual place where people could burn a doll to rid themselves of their deep sorrow. Yoshi really likes this idea. She was standing on the balcony thinking about this when a strong gust of wind suddenly snatches the pamphlet right out of her hand and blows it away. Yoshi runs downstairs to catch it, but the pamphlet keeps flying and lands in a nearby market. Chasing it, Yoshi reaches an old shop where she spots a very creepy-looking doll. Staring at the doll, she falls under some strange spell, buys it, and brings it home. That night, when Suzuki comes home, he is completely freaked out by that creepy doll. But he doesn't say a word, because after all these days, that very doll had finally brought a faint smile back to Yoshi's face. The next day, returning from work, Suzuki's mind is completely blown. That doll looked exactly like their dead daughter May. Yoshi had cut the doll's hair and nails and dressed it up in her dead daughter's clothes. The next morning, she even takes the doll to the doctor. Suzuki feels incredibly embarrassed, thinking people will call him crazy. But the doctor explains that this isn't madness. Keeping the doll like this is actually a medical treatment that will help Yoshi forget her sorrow and move on with her life. Hearing this, Suzuki stops worrying. Now, treating that doll as their real daughter, the two of them start taking it on picnics and buying new clothes for it. Slowly, Yoshi starts becoming very happy again. But one day, the story takes a massive turn. Yoshi suddenly shows up at Suzuki's hospital and gives him some massive good news. She was pregnant. Time passes, and she gives birth to a beautiful baby girl, whom they also name May. With the arrival of a real baby, there was absolutely no need for that doll anymore, so it was left lying in the storeroom along with the rest of the old toys. One day, the baby was crying uncontrollably, and Yoshi suddenly remembers that old doll. She takes it out and lays it next to the baby, which instantly quiets her down. Then Yoshi steps out of the room to talk to her mother-in-law. But just then, a terrifying, loud, wailing sound of the baby comes from the room. Yoshi rushes inside, and the sight completely pulls the ground from under her feet. That doll had moved right next to the baby, and its hair was tightly wrapped around the baby's neck like a lethal noose. Yoshi immediately pulls the baby away and saves her. That night, Suzuki carefully inspects the doll's box, which had some weird Japanese writing on it. They assume the baby must have tangled herself in the hair while playing. Still, just to be safe, Suzuki locks the doll back in the box and hides it away in the storeroom. In the blink of an eye, 5 whole years pass. May was now a big girl. One day, while playing, her marble rolls straight into that same storeroom. She goes inside looking for the marble and brings that exact same old doll back out with her. She tells her mother that from now on, she will play with it, and its name is Aya. Seeing it after so many years, Yoshi is left completely stunned because the doll's cut hair and nails had grown incredibly long all over again. That night, Suzuki explains that old doll makers often used real human hair and nails, so that's probably why it looks like that. Yoshi accepts his explanation. But that very same night, May suddenly leaves her room and comes to sleep next to Yoshi. When asked why, she says something absolutely terrifying. Aya hits me. She says she can't let me have all of Mom's love just to myself. Yoshi assumes the kid just had a bad nightmare. She puts her to sleep and places the doll high up on the closet. But the next day, a friend of May's comes over to play, and shortly after, runs out crying uncontrollably. Her mother sees incredibly deep bite marks right on the little girl's arm. Yoshi violently scolds May, but crying, May replies, "I didn't do this. Aya bit her." Yoshi refuses to believe a single word she says. The next morning, she goes to school to talk to the teacher. The teacher brushes it off as typical childhood behavior, but then she shows Yoshi some drawings May had made. Those drawings were so bizarre and terrifying, it felt like there was a very deep and dark secret hiding right behind them. That exact same night, Yoshi was fast asleep. Suddenly, she feels tells May come in and lie down right next to her. Smiling, she turns on the light, and the moment the light hits, a horrific scream rips from her throat. Sleeping right next to her wasn't May. It was that terrifying doll, Aya. As soon as morning comes, Yoshi tells Suzuki that this doll is alive, but he doesn't believe her and leaves for work. Yoshi completely loses her patience. She immediately shoves it into a garbage bag, takes it far away from the house, and dumps it straight into a trash can. She thinks everything is finally going to be okay, but a short while later, someone knocks on the door. Yoshi opens the door with trembling hands, only to find no human standing outside, but that exact same doll sitting right on the ground, and plastered on it was a sticky note from the garbage collectors. "You cannot throw such large items in the trash." Reading this, Yoshi breathes a massive sigh of relief, realizing this wasn't the work of a ghost, but just the garbage men. She runs and stops them, begging them to take the doll, but just as the garbage truck drives a short distance away, it gets into a horrific, massive accident. When Yoshi runs over there, she sees that May was also right there at the scene. May loved that doll so much that she had pulled it right out of the garbage amidst that horrific crash, and now it was back in their house once again. That night, the two of them check the CCTV recordings. Yoshi notices that along with May, there was the whispering voice of another little girl echoing in the room. She desperately tries to explain to Suzuki again that Aya is no ordinary doll, but while talking, she starts frantically scratching her own arm with her nails like a maniac. Suzuki realizes that his wife's old madness is returning once again. The next day, he takes May to the hospital for a checkup, but when the doctor looks at her back, his mind is completely blown. May's entire back is covered in horrific, deep scratch marks. When asked, a terrified May whispers, "If I tell you, the one who did this will beat me really badly." Suzuki becomes absolutely certain that Yoshi is the one doing these horrific things. He tells her she needs to be admitted to the hospital's psychiatric ward for a few days. Yoshi agrees, but on one massive condition. She demands that Suzuki take that doll to that spiritual temple and burn it forever. Suzuki agrees. When he calls the temple, they tell him the next available slot for burning dolls is next month. They ask for a photo of the doll and its box. While taking the picture, his eyes fall on the corner of the box, where a name was written, Kokichi Yasumoto. When Suzuki searches this name on the internet, a video pops up. It reveals that Kokichi was a highly famous doll maker. Years ago, his only daughter had gone missing. In his unbearable grief, he crafted a doll that looked exactly like his dead daughter. When his wife died, that very doll was buried in a grave on Kanejima Island. Suzuki brushes it all off, thinking it's just a fabricated fake story. Just then, the temple priest calls. In a complete panic, he says he is coming to pick it up first thing tomorrow morning because this doll is extremely dangerous, and orders him to keep it locked tightly in its box until then. Meanwhile, May was staying at her grandmother's house. At night, the grandmother comes out to drink water and sees May standing right next to the TV. The moment the grandmother turns toward the fridge to grab something, May sneaks up from behind and jumps straight onto her back. The grandmother lovingly carries her on her back and walks toward the bedroom. But the exact second the bedroom light turns on, the ground slips completely from under her feet. May was fast asleep on the bed, so who the hell was on her back? The grandmother looks right into the mirror. Attached to her back was that terrifying doll, Aya. Screaming in absolute terror, the grandmother throws it away and immediately calls Suzuki. Panicking, she locks the doll inside the storeroom, but a short while later, a knocking sound starts echoing. Gathering her courage, she opens the door to find just a cleaning robot, but the doll was completely gone. The grandmother rushes back into the room, only to find May missing too. She runs out onto the street to look for her. A man tells her he saw two little girls heading straight toward the bridge. The grandmother sprints to the bridge where she finds May sitting right on the edge. Meanwhile, Suzuki also reaches the grandmother's house, but the house is completely empty. Just then, he sees May walking toward him from outside. As he gets closer, he notices fresh blood smeared all over May's mouth. He wipes the blood off, but can't understand where the hell this blood came from. He snatches Aya right out of her hands and locks it securely in the box. Just then, the police arrive on the scene. Along with them was a completely terrified grandmother. The police say they found the grandmother unconscious on the bridge. The police show Suzuki the CCTV footage, which clearly shows May sitting on the bridge and the grandmother running to save her. But just then, from out of the dark, another little girl comes sprinting and violently attacks the grandmother. Suzuki is left completely stunned. If May was on the bridge, then who was that blood-soaked girl coming out of the darkness? The next morning, the priest arrives. Terrified, Suzuki stands there holding a hockey stick tight in his hand. The priest opens the box, wraps the doll in a cloth covered in magical chants, and tells him to bring it to the temple at exactly 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, that terrifying doll is is thrown into the fire and burned right at the temple. Suzuki goes to the hospital and shows the video to Yoshi. The two are absolutely overjoyed that the nightmare is finally over. But the biggest twist of the story was yet to come. The truth was, that doll never burned at all. A greedy man at the temple had stolen it and burned a fake doll in its place. That man goes to an antique shop to sell it. But the exact second he steps outside, he suddenly starts choking. A massive clump of hair violently erupts right out of his mouth, and writhing in agony, he collapses dead right on the stairs. In the middle of all this, the box shatters, and Aya is completely free. That man is brought to the exact same hospital where Suzuki works. Right then, the priest comes running in, and in his hands was the real Aya. Suzuki's breath catches in his throat. The priest gives him the number of a powerful sorcerer named Kanda. Kanda says he will come and get it himself, and strictly orders them not to take their eyes off it until then. Just then, a little girl walks by and says the doll is making noises from its mouth. Terrified, Suzuki shakes it, and with a loud click, a real human tooth falls straight out of its mouth. Suzuki starts sweating bullets. He immediately rushes it into the X-ray room. The moment he looks at the report, his scream gets caught right in his throat. Hidden completely inside the doll's body was an actual real human skeleton. Kokichi had actually built this doll using the bones of his dead daughter. Suzuki immediately calls the police. An officer takes it and heads straight for the research center. Just then, Kanda arrives on the scene. The two of them chase right after the police officer. But on the way, inside a pitch-dark tunnel, the doll completely takes over the police officer's mind. When they reach him, he is crying like a total maniac. Kanda chants a powerful spell, frees him, and traps the doll back into his magically locked box. Now, the three of them go to an old man who used to be a police officer on Kanejima Island years ago. He reveals that Kokichi's wife had actually drowned their sick daughter in the water and killed her. Then this doll was made from her exact bones. Kanda says they must bury it back in that exact same grave. Only then will this deadly curse end. The three of them perform a magic ritual to locate the grave. Suddenly, the lights in the room cut out, and terrifying sounds of running footsteps start echoing all around. Yoshi flashes her camera, and standing right in front of them was that exact same doll. During this attack, Kanda gets severely injured. He hands them a bag covered in magical chants and a metal detector. Now, Suzuki and Yoshi have to head to Kanejima Island all by themselves. The two of them finally reach the island. Using the machine, they locate the grave. They quickly toss the box inside. But right then, a photo of Mei accidentally slips and falls in. Yoshi bends down to grab it, but her hand accidentally knocks over an incense stick. The burning stick falls right onto the magical bag, and it instantly catches fire. The moment it catches fire, the magical seal breaks. The doll starts violently crawling its way right out of the grave. Using every ounce of his strength, Suzuki yanks Yoshi up and violently slams the heavy gravestone shut. Completely exhausted and terrified, the two of them barely escape with their lives and return home. They think the absolute nightmare is finally over, but the very next day, Kanda and the grandmother review the house's CCTV recordings. The doll's terrifying voice echoes crystal clear. "I hate my mother. I don't want this mother." Hearing this, Kanda's eyes widen in absolute horror. He realizes a truth so terrifying, it completely chills him to the bone. On the TV screen, Suzuki and Yoshi are happily holding Mei's hand, taking her out shopping, but Kanda had already figured it out. The girl those two are currently taking with them, thinking it's their daughter Mei, is absolutely not Mei. It is actually that terrifying, bloodthirsty doll Aya. Aya had completely taken on Mei's form, and now Suzuki and Yoshi were trapped under the terrifying doll's control forever. And with this horrifying and chilling suspense, this story comes to an end right here. Let us know what you thought of this video in the comments down below, and absolutely do not forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.